You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're continuing on with spooky season. So, Kenzie.
Yes, Lauren.
Let's get scary.
Woohoo.
Or spooky.
Let's get spooky.
So, I just got back from my trip to Seattle.
Yes, please share.
I don't know why this has been a place that I've been obsessed with wanting to visit. Like, I really, truly don't understand what the pull has been, but I went.
Everything you ever imagined.
It was amazing. We were super touristy, and it was incredible. So the first day we just like walked around, went out to get dinner. Okay, I always pronounce it wrong, but like, like gnocchi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I had
it right.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I had the best ever when we were there.
I love gnocchi.
Oh my God, I wanted to like lick my bowl. It was so good. Okay. And I wanted more, but it was like kind of expensive, so I wasn't going to order a whole nother like serving.
Yeah.
And then I realized I'm too old. We only had 4 drinks that night. That's it. But it was mixed, like I mixed alcohol.
Sure.
Oh my God, both Nora and I woke up the next morning like, does your head hurt a little? Yeah. Does yours? Yeah. I had a glass of white wine, a glass of rosé, a shot that had vodka in it, and then a beer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're getting to be that age.
And I was like, this is awful. And I texted Joe. I was like, I'm old and I don't feel good. So then Friday, we were super touristy. We went to the Starbucks Roastery.
What's that?
It's like this big Starbucks in Seattle.
Okay.
And it has all like the machines
Is it like the original
and stuff. It's not the original one, but it's like the famous one. It has like a bar in there and it's like a restaurant.
Oh.
And you order all the specialty drinks. It was so much fun. And then we went to the Space Needle.
Okay.
I went on the elevator.
Wow.
But it's a glass elevator. But I still held Christine's hand and we got off and she's like, how? And I was like, I'm sorry.
How high up was it?
Like over 600 feet.
It was a glass elevator.
It was terrifying.
I would never.
It was so scary. And it's like the outside of it is all glass. So you can obviously see out. And it's like super thick glass, but it's still like tilted just a little bit. And you're like, oh. And then on the bottom floor, so you have the main floor and then one floor under that is a rotating glass floor. So it moves, but it's terrifying. I couldn't step on it and I wanted to sit on it, but I had to like crawl because I was so scared. It's not great. But it was very pretty. And then we did like a glass, like they have this glass exhibit, Chichuli, his glass exhibit. And then we went to the beach. And then it was cold, but it was like for the sunset. Yeah. And then the next day we hiked this trail next to Mount Rainier.
Oh, cool.
Oh my God, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was so freaking difficult. Like at one point we're at this lake. And it's like halfway through the trail. And you're at the lake and it's beautiful. And there's like an overlook up there. And I was like, oh, like, how do you think you get up there? Do you think you can just drive up there? And everyone's like, yeah, probably. And then Freddie was like, oh, that's where we're hiking. I was like, haha, that's like a really funny joke. Turns out that's where we were hiking. Oh my God. We got up to the top and I was like, all of us were out of breath, dying. But it was beautiful.
Yeah.
The whole hike was like 6.5 miles.
That's a decent hike.
It was a hike. It took us 4 hours. And then just all the other walking around. We ended up walking like 10 miles that day.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we went to this bar. I can't remember what it was called. It was called like literally Bar House.
Okay.
But it was like, if you think of like Seattle grunge, that's this bar.
Okay.
So we go in, we're dressed in our like hiking outfits, and there's this room, and it's like, it looks like a tree, and you walk into this room, and it's all dark, and it has ivy all over and dim lighting, and it had like all these like forest noises, and there was a troll hiding in the corner that would light up every now and then.
Mystical forest.
It was so cool. I kept telling him, I was like, I want this in my house. But we didn't stay in it too long because we know there are other people who wanted it.
Right.
But yeah, it was so much fun.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for going all the way up to the tippy top.
Thank you. I was very scared.
Yeah.
But I did it.
Yeah, you did it.
Because the guy was like, it'll take us 82 seconds in this elevator. And I was like, oh, okay. It made me feel better that the tour guide was in the elevator with us, like the little operator. And then I realized that is never a job I will ever want. Ever.
No. I'm never going to go to the top of the Empire State Building. I'm never going to go to the top of the Space Needle. I'm never going to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower.
See, I didn't think I would, but then I did because Christine and Nora made me buy the tickets. So I had no choice. Oh, and we went to Pike's Place Market. It's where they do like the fish throwing. Oh, there's like the stand and they literally like throw the fish to each other. It's like a thing. Like look up Seattle and fish throwing.
Okay.
And then we saw the gum wall.
Ew.
It's as gross as it sounds, yes. It's
gross.
just gum all over the wall. And Christine was like, let me go take a picture of you next to it. And I was like, this is as close as I'm getting to this gum.
I think I saw it on her story.
Yeah, you can see me like, "Ugh." But yeah, and I wore a sweater because like I wanted to be cute. And then it got really hot. And then I started to die. And I was like, I am so hot, I'm going to die. And like I couldn't eat anything and I couldn't drink anything because I was so hot.
Right.
And I kept wanting to find a shirt, but all the shirts were like, Seattle. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So we went to this place that sold ginger beer, and Christine and Nora got some. I did not because I was so hot. And they sold a t-shirt. And I was like, I need to buy it. So I had to buy this random t-shirt so that I could change into that.
Why did you bring a sweater?
Because I thought it was going to be cold. Christine was like, prepare. It's been like really, really chilly up here lately. We went. It was beautiful weather, not a drop of rain.
Oh, good.
70 degrees. And I brought sweaters.
Well, she said prepare, not...
She said it's been cold up here.
Right. So prepare for it to possibly be cold, not only be cold.
She made it sound like it would only be cold, but I did bring some t-shirts, which helped for hiking.
Thank God.
I know. Could have been bad.
It would have been very bad. Couldn't eat, couldn't drink.
Would have died.
You would have died.
Hiking in my sweater.
Like, I'm back here to tell you guys this week that the case I'm covering is Lawrence. She's dead on the side of a mountain.
Wouldn't that be a story?
It would be. Probably wouldn't be as entertaining because I'm like, she just got hot and died.
As we were walking, I was like telling Christine, I was like, oh my God, if I were here by myself, I would be listening to a podcast about creepy things in the woods. And she's like, why do you do that to yourself? And I was like, I enjoy it. Oh my God, it was so awkward. There's so many people on this trail.
Mm-hmm.
So these people, we kind of like, we would pass them, they would pass us kind of thing. And they were holding a ton of flowers in their backpack. And so at one point, they're like resting and Christine was like, oh, I saw you guys have had your flowers. I was like, wondering why you guys had flowers. And they're like, oh yeah, like my husband, her father passed away and his ashes are scattered over there. So we do this every year to like go bring the flowers.
Oh.
And we're like, oh, that's very cute. And then Christine, I guess, just keeps talking.
Oh no.
And she goes, was it Christine or Nora? One of them goes, oh, I thought it was because like someone was going to get married. And like the mom was like, yeah, you would hope. And then she like looks at the two people she's with. So I guess they were like dating or whatever. And she goes, and I'm even a pastor. I could marry them. And then it just got really awkward. And we all just like kind of backed away. And then we kept seeing them throughout the path. And it was just like the whole awkward like, hi.
That reminds me of like your wedding. Your dad looks at me and goes, so when is it your turn? I'm like, I don't know. That's out of my control at this point.
You didn't catch the bouquet.
No, I stood in the back. I purposely was like, I like put my hands down.
I'm not catching that.
Stepped to the side. I was like, no.
Nora snatched that thing.
And out.
I know, because it was going towards Joe's sister, and Nora just out of the air snatches it.
I feel like Ian's face was like, oh my God.
Because that was around the time when she was like, I've been hiding pictures of rings around our house, so he gets the idea.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Oh, amazing.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
Thank you. I am too.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, Mom was like, I'm glad you're finally going to get this weird obsession of yours over with. And I was like, thank you.
You finally scratched the itch.
Finally.
Love that for you.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't do anything exciting. Just hung out with some dogs.
Well, see, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, before we forget, so we do a really bad job checking some of our review places.
I will never check them.
Well, I do.
I have too fragile of a mental health
You
to do that.
Well, we got a review back in July from the username of generic ! But yeah, so we got a review from that person in July. So thank you very much. That was very sweet.
It's very nice. She only sends me the nice ones. And then when someone says something stupid or asks something stupid or whatever, she's like, I'm going to reply. I'm like, you don't have to.
And then I didn't. But if you are generic ! Send us an email at ascarystatepodcast@gmail.com and we'll send you something as a little thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so do we want to jump into what this week is about?
Sure.
Do you want to introduce what it's about?
Sure. So I had this idea that is not of my own. I heard it first on like a serial killer podcast.
Oh.
And when I first heard it then, I was like, that'd be a good idea. And then when I was looking for Michigan, I saw it come up again where it's scary movies that are inspired by, based on, take elements from specific crimes of people.
Which we have done before, sprinkled throughout states. But for this one, we were like, this is what it's going to be.
This was going to be. Didn't watch a single movie.
I didn't think you would.
I'm never going to.
I tried to watch mine, but I couldn't find it on any of the streaming services that I had.
Didn't even look.
Because I was going to watch it on the way to Seattle or on the way back. And then it was not on any of the things I had, so I couldn't download it. And it wasn't on the plane. It wasn't able to be watched.
I've never even heard of yours.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I asked Joe about it, and I was like, do you want to watch this with me? And he was like, yeah, I will. But then we realized I was gone. And then I came back on Monday. He worked late Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we record on Thursday.
Yeah.
So he was like, when do you want to watch it? I said, I don't know. Because it's good. I've heard of it before. It's super interesting, so I want to watch it. You'd probably like it.
I will say that, like, having to read a lot more into these, like, movies, I was like, this sounds like a very interesting concept. Like, don't get me wrong. But I'm like, but it's out of my control. I can't if I could just read it. Just give me the
script.
Like,
and I'll read the script.
Read that. And
I need 4 friends to do all of the voices. We're good.
Well, and the other thing I was thinking too when I was driving over here, I said,
you had a lot of time to ponder.
I got like 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
I was thinking to myself, I was like, there needs to be kind of like 2 spookies.
Okay.
Like, I can appreciate that, like, people like to be scared and like the spooky, like scary spooky.
Yeah.
But there needs to start being more of the genre of like spooky, the aesthetic. So
like Hocus Pocus?
Yes.
Okay.
But not all children's movies. Like,
Right.
I don't want it to have to be a children's movie in order for it to be like spooky, because then I'm like, well, I just look lame because I just list all the children's movies that I like to watch because they're the only ones that are fucking scary. So can we get an adult movie that has, you know, spookiness, Halloween, whatever.
But it's not scary.
But it's not scary.
Okay. I'll be on the lookout. If anyone has suggestions, let us know.
Yeah.
And I'll make Mackenzie watch them.
I can appreciate a good story. But yeah, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
I was too nervous to watch that one movie because I was like, I know it's going to be funny, which is why I want to watch it.
Which movie?
The one I sent you a snap of.
Haunted Mansion is what she's talking about, by the way.
It's a new one.
A new Haunted Mansion, but still like the Disney Haunted Mansion.
But I know it's going to be funny because it has all these funny people in it.
It's meant to be funny. Have you seen the original?
Yes. And the original scared the bejesus out of me.
Oh my God.
First of all, it came out in 2005 and I was 10. So I don't even know why you're rolling your eyes as if you should be shocked that I was scared of that.
Okay, back then, 10 years old, I was also scared of things. Remember we almost didn't watch Taken because we thought it was a scary movie?
Yes.
Yeah, we watched it.
Well, it's not... Thriller is like not a good description for some movies.
Right.
Because
mine's technically a thriller.
Because when I hear thriller, I'm thinking scary movie. And right. Like monsters.
Yeah.
Gore. But like thriller, it could also be like a category of like an action movie too.
Oh.
Which is like Taken. So.
Okay.
But you know, it looks really funny, but I knew that there was going to be at least 1 or 2 instances where something pops out because...
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's whatever. And I was not in my own home and I was like, you probably be fine. But on the off chance...
Not probably. You would be fine.
I have learned at the ripe young age of 28 that you don't have to do something. You don't have to watch a scary movie. You don't have to go up into that really tall building. And it's really because lack of control. I don't know what's going to happen and I'm very nervous and I know something's going to pop out and scare me and my mind is going to run wild. And
you know, it's an amazing invention. And if this isn't a thing, Mackenzie and I are claiming this thought.
Okay.
So there's like this website that tells you during a movie when is the time to go pee. Like when you should break during the movie to go pee. They also have movies about if a dog dies. So you can look up all these things to like skip certain parts. We should do it for jump scares. Like this movie has a jump scare at this time. This movie has a jump scare at this time. You don't have to do it. You can just help me do it.
Yeah.
And this is our TM. I don't know. This is ours.
TM what?
Trademark.
Oh.
Yeah.
TM. Okay. I got it.
But yeah, so we should do one for like when things jump out at you. like right after she walks through the woods, there's going to be a jump scare.
You know what's bad? I want to give you, like, I mean, I know you know it's bad, but like, I just want to reiterate. This little teeny tiny dog that I check in with every day. She's the cutest little thing in the world. And I'll work on something. Sometimes I'll even have my headphones in, depending on what I'm doing. That's also the time when, like, the school that's right by us, people start to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And she barks if she hears, like, the door to the building open and she thinks someone's coming.
Right.
And so I can see her, like, perk up. And every time she barks, I jump.
Of course.
Well, the first time she does. And I'm like, I know it's coming. I'm not scared of it. Like, that's the thing.
It's just startling.
It's just like everything, if I'm not expecting it, startles me.
Yeah. I mean, that's how all things are.
Would you jump every single time the dog barked?
I don't know.
Probably.
It depends how focused in on something I was or what I was listening to and how scared I was.
I will say that doing this has piqued my interest. Because I will admit, the stories themselves are interesting.
I think mine, I didn't watch it, but I think this would be a good one for you to watch.
You're going to have to screen it first. I will not.
Okay, I will screen it first.
I'm not going in when we're both blind like that.
I'll screen it first. But just based on the story, there's not any jump scares. Like, there's nowhere where a thing could jump out at you. It wouldn't make sense in the story. Yeah. It would be very odd.
Did I tell you about the movie my dad made me watch? Growing up, whenever I was at his house on the weekends, we would always watch movies. Mm-hmm. Once I got to a certain point that he could say, no, I'm not going to watch Little Mermaid for the umpteenth time, started watching his movies. And there was one, and it had like Ethan Hawke, Lawrence Fishburne, and I think it's called like Assault on the 8th Precinct or something like that. And it's an action movie. But shit pops out every other fucking minute, and I'm jumping. Like, it's not just like oh, that scared me. No. It's like a scream. And like, my dad is dying laughing.
Oh, obviously.
By the 5th time, I hit him and be like, what fucking movie is this? I'm never watching this again. This is terrible. Even in Criminal Minds, I've seen it 4 times. The beginning of it, I'm like, focus on your game so that whatever it is that's about to pop out of her closet.
Like the scary part?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've seen it 4 times. That's why I looked down. I know something's about to pop out of that closet. So anyway, we're talking about scary movies today.
Yes, we are. Mackenzie's favorite thing. All right, do you want to start?
Sure. Okay, so instead of our normal state facts, I tried to find some movies that are inspired by another event of some kind. Now, some of the things on this list I know are definitely accurate because I would Google them separately from the first website I found them from. But some of them I didn't go double check. So if they're wrong,
then yep.
I think the person who wrote it is from India because the way that they used money, I had to like look it up. And it was a term that people use in India. So
interesting.
So we'll see.
All right, we got this.
So even if it's not true, it still sounds like a cool thing. So the first one we have is The Exorcist from 1973, which I'm sure many of you know. It's based on a book on a real-life boy named Roland Doe who was possessed by demons in 1949. It stars Linda Blair, Ellen Burstyn, and Jason Miller. The movie made $112.3 million worldwide.
Wow.
And you can also listen to Lauren cover this actual story.
Yes, I did.
In our very first DC episode.
Well, I covered The Exorcist stairs in our DC episode. And then I think he was in Missouri.
So, okay, did you see the little blank that I put?
Yeah.
I was like, it's not Maryland. It's either Maryland or Missouri. And I couldn't remember.
I think it was Missouri.
Because isn't it they start in Maryland
yes.
and then go to Missouri?
Yes.
See, I couldn't remember what state you did it for.
I think that was it. Yeah, they start in one place, they go to the other.
I remember giving you shit for it.
You did, yes.
I was like,
you're like, that's what this state we're covering.
Right. But I was like, but I don't remember which one it was. It was just like, our episode.
Yeah, it was one of those.
There's actually quite a few Exorcist movies.
Yeah.
That are based on.
There's a new Exorcist movie coming out.
I include one in here. It's not like when you look at it, you have to read the description to know it's about an exorcist type of thing. 2011.
Wow.
Most of these are pretty recent. There's only a handful of them.
I mean, there's like The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yep, that was on there.
Yeah, there's like a lot of those
because I started
second
guessing if I was like, wait, is that the one she did? I couldn't remember. But yeah, so that's, and easing us in with some we know about.
All right, so the next one is The Nightmare on Elm Street, which came out in 2010. The makers of this movie were inspired by a group of Laotian
From Lao.
Yep, refugees who had died in the throes of a nightmare. The medical reports said that there was nothing wrong with them physically. The supernatural horror film won the People's Choice Award for favorite horror movie.
I thought that was cool.
I have seen a couple of these movies. Joe was like, watch these with me. Mom watched Nightmare on Elm Street when she was younger, and she said it was, because I think this is the newer one. I think there's an older one.
Yeah.
So she watched the older one, and she said she was like terrified. Yeah. And there's a bathtub scene, and she said she couldn't take a bath for a while. Like, this was her scariest movie, was Nightmare on Elm Street.
There are a lot of things now that like if I go to like an Airbnb or something and it's an older house, and you know how some of them have the string that goes across like a bathtub to hang clothes?
Oh.
I will take that down, because in the first one, he chokes himself to death by slipping, and then...
Oh.
Some of these movies that I've seen before, I would be interested to go back and see what my mind does now, because when I think about it, you literally see the water like turning and tailing after this guy to like make him fucking slip into the tub and die.
Some old movies you watch back and they were so scary then. Yeah. And then you watch them now, you're like, that's not that scary
Even
anymore.
Halloween Town, I was watching it, and like there's the second one where the mom like has a mask on and she changed into this creepy monster. And I look at the dogs I'm with, I said, that scared me when I was little.
They're probably like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought since Nightmare on Elm Street was like a well-known one.
Yeah.
Even I know what that one is.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, I only know it because I have heard of it, but I had no idea what it was. What it entailed.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't figure it out until a Rick and Morty episode where they're going through different people's dreams.
That's so funny.
And it's like in there, and I'm like, I think he's like a famous monster person. Like, and then I connected the
Freddy
dots
Krueger
from there. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
With the okay. See? I was right.
The hands.
The thing.
No one
can
can see what she's doing, but the hands.
The hands.
Yeah.
Those
hands. Yeah.
So this one sounded just really interesting in terms of like the case.
Okay.
So this is called The Girl Next Door. It came out in 2007. And it is inspired by the true story of Sylvia Likens, who was tortured. Have you heard this before?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's
bad. New to me.
It's bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
She was tortured and eventually killed by her caretaker, Gertrude Banzowski.
Banaszewski?
That sounds a lot better than what I said. In 1965. So she was an American teenager, like I said, tortured and murdered by her caregiver, and even her caregiver's children and several of the neighborhood friends.
Mm-hmm.
The abuse lasted for 3 months, occurring incrementally before Likens died from her extensive injuries and malnourishment on October 26, 1965 in Indianapolis, Indiana.
I listened to a podcast that covered this, and it's like really rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of these movies, one, I hadn't heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, when I like read what it was based off of, I'm like, that's so interesting.
Right.
But then I'm like, I would have never watched that movie.
No.
Mm-mm. But I wonder now, like now that I know.
That it was like a crime.
Yeah.
Like kind of more understand it.
Because it's solved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's from 1965. How scary can it be?
Yeah, no, seriously.
Well, not the movie. The movie's from 2007, but...
Okay, then that might be a little bit more scary.
A little bit.
All right, then we have Ravenous from 1999. This is screenwriter Ted Griffin. He wrote a script that combined elements from the Donner Party and that of the real-life Colorado cannibal. Alfred Packer, who survived by eating 5 companions after becoming snowbound in the San Juan Mountains in the 1870s. It was directed by Antonia Bird. The movie stars Guy Pearce, David Arquette, and Robert Carlyle in lead roles.
Apparently there was like some...
That sounds really interesting.
Like the original director was fired like 3 weeks in. And I don't know, one of them, I think it was Arquette, recommended Bird to be the director.
Oh.
Yeah. Though.
That sounds good. Actually, maybe.
So The Rite, R-I-T-E, like Rite Aid, which came out in 2011, is loosely based on Matt Bagelow's book, The Rite, The Making of a Modern Exorcist, which itself is based on actual events as witnessed and recounted by American then exorcist in training, Father Gary Thomas, which I also think is a Criminal Minds episode.
Probably.
It was about his experiences of being sent to Rome to be trained and work daily with veteran clergy of the practice. It is directed by Michael Hofstrom, and it stars Anthony Hopkins, Marta Gastini, and Colin
O'Donoghue
in the lead roles.
Huh. All of these I'm like thinking, add to my list. All right, then there's Borderland from 2007.
I almost covered this when I did our last episode.
Not really.
The movie, the thing that it's about.
Oh, okay. So what it's about is an American-Mexican horror film written and directed by Zev Bierman. It is loosely based on the true story of Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo, a drug lord and the leader of a religious cult that practiced human sacrifice. Costanzo and his followers, called the Narco-Satanists, kidnapped and murdered the University of Texas junior Mark J. Kilroy in the spring of 1989. I think I know this case.
You should, because if you read through all of the pictures that I posted about cults last week.
Yes, but I knew about it before that. I think one of the podcasts, maybe not the one, like one of the ones on YouTube I think covered this case.
Yeah, I had seen it in my research, and I was considering covering that one. There were so many.
Oh, now I want to watch that movie.
Yeah.
There's
but
so
apparently, just so you know, on the website, it said that like you see him eat like the brains and the like all the limbs and things.
Okay. It's like just for a movie. It's not a real person eating it. Well,
but
like
that's apparently like what he actually did, though.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So, yeah. Okay, so the next one is Silent House, which came out in 2011. The plot focuses on a young woman who is terrorized in her family vacation home while cleaning the property with her father and uncle. So it is a remake of a 2010 Uruguayan film, La Casa Muda, which I bet you is like bad house, which was allegedly
maybe Silent House.
Muda mute.
Yeah. Oh, and because it's a remake of
context clues are good.
Called Silent House.
Yeah. You know, whatever. See, this is what happens when like I don't teach. Is like I start to lose like some of that quick like pick up on things.
Yeah.
Like I went to the store the other day, and I was talking to the woman, and we were trying to figure out my total, like a boutique store.
Oh, okay.
And she was like, okay, well, this is 45 and this is 35. And then we just looked at each other. And I was like, so 100? No, 9? And she's like, let's get out the calculator. I said, that would probably be a good idea. Math is hard.
I have to do that now. Like, I'll add up my number, like my hours or something for work. And I'm like, I'm just going to do this on a calculator.
Which it's funny, though, because I forget the strategies I teach my children to do fast math.
Oh.
Like, it's like all of a sudden I'm in front of someone and I'm like, okay, well, I know what makes 10. And so 4 plus 5 is 9. Just add the 110. And then you have, what is it, 35? Oh, wait, no, that's not what he did.
35 and 45. You can take the 5 from the 40, add it to the 35. 240 is 80.
That one.
Yeah.
See? I forget. But I knew it was something with making 10.
Yeah, because you're like, the 4 and then like 5 make 9. I'm like, what?
See, you knew what I meant, so it's okay.
Just like last episode, and you were like, yeah, the 5 hikers. We never said 5. And you're like, you didn't say 5. Mom and I were like, never once did we say 5.
I don't know.
I still don't either, because when I was editing it yesterday or Tuesday, whatever, I was like, where in the world did she get 5?
I don't know. But anyway, so here's this movie that is supposedly based on an actual incident that occurred in a village in Uruguay in the 1940s. It is notable for its use of real-time footage and the manufactured appearance of a single continuous shot, similar to Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, which came out in 1948.
Interesting. All right, then we have the Riling Place? Nope, 10 Riling Place. I'm just going to start this over. Okay, then... Is it Rillington?
Rillington.
Rillington?
I think so.
Okay.
Somewhere in Britain.
All right, so then we have 10 Rillington Place. It came out in 1971. The film stars Richard Attenborough, Judy Geeson, John Hurt, and Pat Haywood, and was directed by Richard Fleischer. The film dramatizes the case of British serial killer John Christie, who committed many of his crimes in the titular London terraced house, and the miscarriage of justice involving his neighbor Timothy Evans.
Have you ever heard of him? Same.
So, and also maybe because it's like in the UK.
Yeah.
That could be why.
I wonder if Richard Attenborough is brothers with David Attenborough.
How common of a last name would that be?
I have no idea, but how many Attenboroughs are?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I guess. I feel like when you go to certain places, like
things are more common.
Attenborough here wouldn't hear that. But there
like
might
Smith.
Right.
Smith over there would probably be like weird.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many Attenboroughs.
There's no way to know.
No way to know. This last one, I'm not going to watch this movie, but I would love to look more into this house.
Oh, yeah.
Because apparently the house is haunted. So I was like, well, But there's a movie called Winchester. It came out in 2008, and it's based...
18.
Oh, sorry. Came out in 2018. Thank you. It is based on the Winchester Mystery House, which is a mansion in San Jose, California, that was once the personal residence of Sarah Winchester, who was the widow of a firearms magnate, William Wirt Winchester.
They made the Winchester rifle.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go. That's what they're famous for.
Yep.
So this was a Victorian and Gothic-style mansion, and it's renowned for its size and architectural curiosities. So the legend says that Miss Winchester continued to add additions onto her house to imprison vengeful spirits. So she did continue to add rooms and construction and all that until she died. The reason why is up for guesses.
Yeah, like a psychic told her that it was the spirits of all of those who had been killed by the rifles that her husband had made. So who had been killed by the Winchester rifles. Yeah, so she was constantly doing this to like confuse the spirits and get them so they would never be able to follow her.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I just thought the house looked really fucking cool.
Yeah, it does.
From 1886 to 1922, construction seemingly never ceased as the original 8-room farmhouse grew into the world's most unusual sprawling mansion featuring 24,000 square feet, 10,000 windows, 2,000 doors, 160 rooms, 52 skylights, 47 stairways and fireplaces, 17 chimneys, 13 bathrooms, 6 kitchens, and a partridge in a pear tree. And it was built at a price tag of $5 million, which from 1923 to now would be $71 million.
See, when you first said $5 million, I was like, that's not that bad. And then 71 million is a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would go here.
Yeah, I think it'd be so cool.
Would you do a tour here?
During the daytime.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just have to go to San Jose, California.
Because it's like hit or miss whether or not it's haunted.
Right.
Like the spooky community is like, yeah, it's haunted. But then like it's no more so for its architect and being cool than it is for being haunted.
And there are like staircases that lead to nothing and some doors that open up and it's just like a 20-foot drop. Yeah, it's wild.
I'm telling you, this like houses in my dreams. Make no sense. Yeah, so those are just like tip of the iceberg. There were so many more.
So many.
And I was like, well, I have my own story to write. So we'll just stop here.
Gotta stop at some point. Okay, Mackenzie, what movie are you going to talk about?
Okay, so like I said, irony is not lost on me that we are covering scary movies. I haven't seen this one and probably won't.
Okay.
So I actually stumbled upon this when I was researching for our Michigan episode, and I was really close to using it, but then I was like, oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
So I do have a funny story.
Okay.
I put in here, tell funny story. The other day I was driving through a neighborhood and I saw like a house and I was like, oh my God. And my friend was like, what? And I said, they had like a life-size version of that dude from that scary movie, which of course is not helpful. And I was
not
like,
at all.
I don't remember what his name is, but I know he's one of like the main ones from like the main, like
one of like the Mount Rushmore of scary movies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
But I don't know who he is.
Okay.
He's in a jumpsuit, like a
Mike Myers? White face?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike Myers.
And he's holding a knife?
Yeah.
That one.
He's from Halloween.
Ah, there you go. My friend asked if they were like, is it Jason? I said, I don't know. I don't know.
Jason is hockey mask.
Well, he asked if it was a hockey mask, and I thought it was a hockey mask, but I'm like, well, no, because I couldn't remember if it was a mask. I was like, well, wait, does he put a mask over that face?
His face is a mask. Mike Myers' face is a mask.
Is a mask.
I think so.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
But he's like wearing like the blue like mechanic jumpsuit. Yeah, that guy. It was just like a life-size version just standing outside their house.
Ew.
And I was like, is that real? Is that not real? Like, I don't know. It was weird.
Ew, creepy.
But yeah, that's how little I know about them. At least I knew he was like important.
There you go. That's step one.
So the movie that I'm talking about is Jeepers Creepers.
I have seen this movie.
Oh, I have not.
Joe and I once, when we lived in Reston, we had a movie marathon where we watched the first and the second. And then last year we watched the first and the second.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, then you will know a little bit about this.
Yeah.
So it was released on August 31st, 2001, and it grossed $59 million on a $10 million budget.
Dang.
It was written and directed by Victor Salva and stars Gina Phillips and Justin Long. The title of the movie actually comes from a song from 1938 that is featured in the film.
Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, well, now almost like including this whole intro part seems a little pointless since you've seen this movie.
Well, other people might not have. They might be like you and don't want to watch scary movies.
There you go. So if you're like me and you didn't want to watch to see how these two cases were similar, the movie's opening scene shows Trish Jenner and her brother Derry traveling home from college for spring break. They're driving through the Florida countryside, which I didn't realize Florida had a countryside.
Yeah, okay.
When an old pickup truck begins tailgating them on the highway. The truck finally passes them and speeds off down the road. Not long after, the siblings pass by an abandoned church and see the same old pickup with the driver dumping what looks like bodies wrapped in bloodstained sheets. The driver was stuffing the sheets into a large pipe that was sticking out of the ground. The driver recognizes the car Trish and Derry were driving in and begins pursuing them down the highway. He runs their car off the road before finally driving off. Derry convinces his sister to go back to the church to investigate what was in the pipe.
No.
Exactly.
No. See,
Exactly.
that's how you know it's a horror movie. Let's go back and see what was going on. No. Go home. Call the cops maybe, but no.
So he convinces her and they go back.
No.
He ends up falling to the bottom of a pipe. And
See, this is what you get.
Right. Absolutely. And he finds a dying man or a dead man. One of the two. But he has stitches running down his stomach. And there are hundreds of corpses sewn into the walls and the ceiling. Once I read that, I said, that's why I'm never going to see this movie.
It doesn't look as creepy as it sounds.
I'm okay. Once Derry finds his way out of the pipe, the two siblings flee the area to a local diner and call police. And
Finally.
Yeah, right. Now, while at the diner, Derry and Trisha receive a phone call from a strange woman who warns them that they are in danger. And she starts playing the Jeepers Creepers song and tells them that one of them will die screaming while they hear this song.
Oh.
The movie, of course, is a work of fiction. There are no mysterious phone calls or bodies sewn into a wall. There was, however, a suspicious vehicle that stopped at an abandoned building to dump bloody sheets. And two people were driving along a highway, but they weren't siblings. They were married, and their names were Ray and Marie Thornton. And the building wasn't a church, it was an abandoned school.
Okay.
It was the Thornton story that made it onto an episode of Unsolved Mysteries and was used as the inspiration for the opening scene to Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, God, I would never want my story to be like the inspiration for a scary movie.
Right. Although I don't think that their part of this story is probably okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So in late March of 1991, Hank Queen was at the house that he shared with his girlfriend, Linda Blizzard, in Grapevine, Texas. Real names, I swear to God.
Wow.
Queen had turned on the TV and began watching an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. He sees the reenactment of a couple, Ray and Marie Thornton, driving along Snow Prairie Road, which is a rural highway 12 miles outside Coldwater, Michigan. In the Thorntons' rearview mirror, you see a Chevy van driving aggressively towards them. As Queen continues to watch the episode, his heart starts beating a little faster and he starts to sit up a little straighter. He continues watching the episode and sees the couple are playing a game of making slogans from license plates and passing cars.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
When the Chevy van speeds past the Thorntons, Marie sees a GZ on the plate and says, "Geez, he's in a hurry." And I immediately liked them.
I can, yes, they are your people.
The Thorntons continue on their drive, and soon they approach an abandoned schoolhouse. It's somewhat tucked back and away from the road, but you can still see that a van is parked on the side of the building. As the Thorntons drove past, Marie recognizes the van from earlier and saw the driver holding what appeared to be a bloody sheet as he walked behind the schoolhouse. As Marie was telling Ray what she saw, she began to write it down. She told Unsolved Mysteries that she was grateful for the game that they had been playing because it helped her remember the last part of the license plate.
Right.
Or at least part of the license plate.
Mm-hmm.
Ray noticed that the same van was now behind them again, driving very closely. Ray decided to pull off onto another road, and the van sped past them and kind of drove off. The van eventually pulled over to the side of the road, and the Thorntons felt that they needed to go back to get his information. And in the
go back to the van?
Yeah,
No.
and drive past them again. Which in the episode, it's like, you know, that's how those reenactments are.
Yes.
It's like, okay, here's his van on the side of the road.
Uh-huh.
Here's like their car. Like, it's almost like he's like right next to it. And they're like, what's his license plate, honey? I'm like, you're right there. You're not even stealth, nothing. You're just like, it almost looked like they stopped next to this guy's car that they think committed a horrible crime to get down this information.
Right. Sir, could you tell us your license plate, please?
Right.
Your name and age of date of birth,
I was
grade
like,
2.
what? Anyway, so they go back and they actually find that the driver is in the process of changing a license plate or the license plate
of his car.
Mm-hmm.
How did they not see that beforehand?
Well, he had the original one, but then he pulled over, and as he pulled over, when they turned around to go back and get more information, they saw that he was taking that license plate off.
So he was out of the car.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is why it was extra weird that they were so fucking close.
Right.
Like pulled up next to him. I'm like, you might as well just ask him what he did.
Yeah. What'd you do, sir? We're here for more information.
But then they wanted to go back to the schoolhouse to see if they could find whatever it is that he had back there.
No.
Right. Oh, Marie also had seen that his passenger side door was open and that there was blood all over the door.
See, this is when you're just like, let me go somewhere and let me call the cops and let them do their job instead of me going back to where someone probably committed a crime.
Right.
No.
We'll get there eventually. They went back to the school and they found the bloody sheet had been stuffed into an animal hole. So not a pipe, but an animal hole.
A hole nonetheless.
Yeah. And then they decided to call authorities.
Okay.
So the episode transitions into the host describing how the Thorntons, unbeknownst to them, had stumbled upon evidence of a shocking crime. The host, Robert Stack, looks at the camera and he begins to tell the story of a, quote, crime which marked the complete and tragic disintegration of a family. Unwittingly, the Thorntons were witnesses to the final chapter of a bitter, heated conflict between husband and his wife, which ended in murder.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun. By the time the episode goes into the background of Dennis and Marilyn Depew, Hank Queen had his van mostly packed. Linda had just arrived home as the Unsolved Mysteries episode was concluding and noticed Queen was in a state of panic as he rushed around to pack up the last few things into his van. He told Linda that his mother was seriously ill and he needed to go immediately and he would call her in a week. Before she had any time to protest or ask any questions, he was gone.
Okay.
She had barely gotten into the door and was still trying to process what had just happened when she got a call from her best friend, Barbara Harris. These two people, later on in the story, I'm like, oh my God, that's us. She had watched the episode of Unsolved Mysteries and told her that the man that she had been sharing a house with, meaning Linda sharing a house with,
right,
and been in a relationship for about a year, was actually wanted by the authorities for the murder of his wife.
Damn.
So,
what would you do?
Well, she didn't really have to worry about it too much. She's like, he's gone anyway.
Right.
So,
but he'll be back in a week.
Because she said, like, he's a murderer, get out of the house.
Oh.
Like, that's what her friend said to her first.
Oh, okay.
And then that's when Linda was like, well, but he's not here.
Right. Okay.
So Marilyn and Dennis Depew had been married for 17 years and had 3 children together. They lived in Coldwater, Michigan, where Marilyn worked as a counselor at a local high school, and Dennis worked at the State Treasury Department as a property specialist for the State Tax Commission. A friend and coworker of Marilyn's, Ann Dunkel, described to reporters that Marilyn was a, quote, very private individual who handled her duties well. She was usually calm and quiet and used a lot of her counseling skills when anyone was upset. She was a good listener. She was able to keep your confidence. Marilyn was working on a doctoral degree and was on track to receive a certification over the summer to become a school administrator.
Wow.
The Depews had 3 children, Jennifer, who was 18 and a senior at Quincy High School, Julie, 17, who was a junior at Coldwater High School, and Scott, who was at 11 and a 5th grader at Lakeland Elementary School. And Dunkel described the kids as, quote, well-behaved, very intelligent, good students. Both girls are in the National Honor Society, and Scott is in the gifted program at his school. Jan Markowski, the Calhoun County Equalization Director, who I think is Dennis's boss, he described Dennis as, quote, a conscientious, good worker, and fairly quiet individual. Over the course of their marriage, DePuy's paranoid and controlling ways began to wear Marilyn down. She filed for divorce in 1989, telling her attorney that DePuy was trying to control every decision in her life. The divorce was bitter and brutal. The principal at her school told reporters, quote, the thing she talked about was her safety if her husband ever came into the building here. She felt he may be unstable enough he could do harm to her or others around her.
Jeez.
There was never any indication at the time of physical abuse that we saw. She just had this fear he was capable of doing something that could be violent. She talked about a restraining order, but I don't know if she ever obtained one. I believe she did.
Did or didn't?
Did.
Okay.
But just during the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
People who worked with DePuy said, quote, since the divorce proceedings, he got a lot more quiet than normal. It was a bitter situation. When you consider the stress he was under and that he took it so bitterly.
Bitterly?
Bitterly. There we go.
What in the hell was wrong with us?
I don't know.
Bitterly.
Like literally. And literally. I'm glad you did it too.
Because how you were saying, I was like, oh, it sounds right, but it doesn't, but I have to say it.
It's like, no, it's too many errors. And he took it so bitterly. That doesn't sound right.
No, it doesn't.
Bitterly sounds better.
Yeah, it does. There you go. He took it more bitterly.
Yeah. And who knows how that affects a person. He had changed quite a bit and lost a lot of weight.
So he's depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DePuy made no claim on the house following the divorce, but maintained a home office in the garage. The divorce was finalized in December of 1989. Marilyn would change the locks on the house, but DePuy would still find ways to get in.
See, that's creepy.
Yep. He was granted bi-weekly visitation with his kids, but the children were often very reluctant to spend time with him. DePuy claimed that Marilyn was turning their children against him. On Easter Sunday, 1990, DePuy arrived at the house to pick up his youngest daughter, Julie, and his son, Scott. Julie refused to go with him.
Oh.
When DePuy went inside, Scott was very reluctant to go with his father. Hello. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Hey, the dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marilyn tried to talk to him, but he just became angry and started yelling at her. At one point, DePuy grabbed Marilyn and pushed her down the stairs. Their oldest daughter, Jennifer, ran to a neighbor to call for help. DePuy picked up Marilyn and told his kids that he was going to take her to the hospital, but they never arrived. Police put an announcement in the paper the next day saying that they were looking for the DePuys. They believed Marilyn had been kidnapped by her former husband, and police believed that the assault occurred around 12:30 p.m.
And the kids are all at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They described DePuy's 1984 maroon van with a possible Michigan license plate of GZ0383.
Mm-hmm. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Mm-hmm. If anyone knew of the whereabouts, they should contact the state police. So I'm not sure of the time. I just saw the article was on Monday, and I know they also found her on Monday.
Okay.
They found her body in a wooded area about 15 feet off of a gravel road.
No, nothing. No, I was looking at Roy through the thing. He yawned and it was cute. How did that startle you?
I don't like it when people just start staring at something.
Ooh, this one show we're watching, the girl always looks like this when she's talking to the girl, like next to her, because she sees ghosts. And so she's talking to the ghost before answering, and then we'll look back and answer. It freaked me out, though, when you were doing the state, or like the facts. Mm-hmm. A car had driven by, and the shadow hit it just perfectly that it looked like a figure walked. So you didn't see me, but I went like this. And then I looked, and it was fine. And then I was like
when we were at Blue Ridge, and Ken's, don't freak out. Just tell her. Tell her quickly. Don't wait. You're just going to freak her out more.
Joe always does it. He tries to be so gentle. I'm like, just tell him.
Because the moment you say my name and are looking at me, I'm already freaking out.
I know. What?
Anyway.
This is a really good episode for you.
Yeah. The autopsy would determine that she died from a single gunshot wound to the head. Police immediately began to search for her husband and put a warrant out for his arrest for first-degree murder. Sergeant Barry Gatke told reporters that authorities did not believe that he was still in Michigan. So they kind of assumed at that point he was long gone.
Right.
The one person that I've ever read about that dipped the fuck out. Like, did exactly what you're supposed to
What
do
you're
after you
supposed
commit
to.
a murder. A few months later, police reported that newspapers in Battle Creek and Coldwater, along with 6 relatives and associates of Dennis Depew, received anonymous letters that describe Depew's problems and possible motivations for the slaying of his ex-wife.
Oh.
Sergeant Pat Loss of the Branch County Sheriff's Department said, quote, most of them, the letters, were the same, though there were some variations. Some of the letters were written in third person, but they were all typed. They had varying postmarks from Virginia, Oklahoma, and Iowa. Sergeant Loss told the Lansing State Journal, he's on the move. I can't figure him out. The letters mostly consisted of their marital problems, their attorneys, relatives, friends, and court officials. So one of the newspapers, they don't specify who's in what article, but I felt like they pulled a lot of information of like the shocking things that he says in there. Okay, so the letter details, in rambling, repetitive fashion, reputed problems between Dennis and Marilyn Depew, their attorneys, relatives, friends, and court officials. The writer blames the tragedy involving the pair primarily on Marilyn Depew's attorney for ensuing a restraining order against him.
Yes, because...
Right.
Yeah.
He also blames Dennis Depew's attorney for not telling him that he could stay in his own house during the divorce proceedings. The letter
it was a restraining order against you.
Right. The letter calls the divorce legal system in Branch County a failure and it needs to be changed. The writer accuses Mrs. Depew of trying to hurt her husband. So this is a quote. Marilyn had every right to a divorce, but she made a fatal mistake in lying and deceiving to force Dennis out of the house and estranging the children from Dennis, the letter said. The writer refers twice to the movie The War of the Roses, saying that if Marilyn had seen it, quote, everything would have been solved early and amicably. Thank you. Those LY words, man.
Amicably.
Too many blah, blah. My mouth's got to move too many different ways. Dennis Depew was, quote, unfairly thrown out of his house with depression overtaking Dennis, the letter said. The writer blames Marilyn for starting the divorce with lying and, quote, wanting everything for her own way. Further passages accuse her of being, quote, too proud, too haughty, too stubborn for her own good.
So pretty much all of this is why she deserved to die.
Right. Marilyn never knew when to stop pushing to get her own way for everything. She never realized how she was getting all of the good things and the bad things were happening to Dennis. The letter says that Marilyn, quote, chose to throw Dennis over the fence and stay on her side of the fence with the children, house, furniture, and make Dennis pay college expenses. Dennis got very, very hurt when Marilyn threw Dennis over the fence. When she kept him out of the house and kept their children away from him, quote, she exacerbated Dennis's depression and left him in a hopeless situation with drastically unfair treatment.
Again, so it's all her fault.
Exactly. The letter attempts to justify a violent act in 2 lists. One question and answer list asks, when do people, as a last resort, react with violence? The first 2 answers involve being treated unfairly. The third, when there's little or nothing to lose. And the last, when a person is hurt physically or emotionally. All these happened to Dennis, the writer said. The other list gives 6 interesting thoughts, including do unto others as they have done unto you, and an eye for an eye, a life for a life.
Are you kidding?
No.
Oh my God. Well, then kill him.
Well, so none of the letters outright confess to the murder, like saying Dennis Depew killed his wife kind of thing.
But like,
But it's all insinuating that like, it's a justification for why she was killed.
Why? Yes.
Yeah.
Like, she was killed, but like, these were all the reasons why she was. So it's not his fault. It was all of these things that she did.
Correct.
Yep.
But unfortunately, they also did not give authorities any better idea where he might be. So no one knows why Depew went to Texas, but he made a home for himself in Grapevine. And on Halloween, he went to a party at a popular Dallas nightclub, and that is where he met Linda Blizzard, and the two began dating. By Christmas, Depew moved in with Blizzard, and he told her that his name was Hank Queen.
For a second, you're going to say, he told her what her name was.
Right.
You might have. You are now Blizzard.
Right. He told her his name was Hank Queen, and that he had graduated from Michigan State University. He was an avid sports fan and worked for a publishing company doing illustrations. He always carried cash, and he didn't leave the house much during the day. It was no surprise to Barbara Harris, so Linda's best friend, to see this man on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries as a wanted fugitive. Harris told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, quote, we had become a little suspicious of him. Linda didn't know his middle name. She knew he grew up in Michigan, but he wouldn't directly say where. He didn't have a driver's license, and she never saw any mail come to the house.
If you don't have a driver's license, like, that's weird.
He has a van.
Oh, sir.
Like,
how do you drive that?
Right. So she goes on to say he was really evasive about a lot of things. Linda did her best to try to solve the mystery of this man she was living with. She even went as far as enrolling in a mini course in detective work.
Amazing!
Right?
Mom keeps telling me all the time, she's like, being a PI is really not that hard. Like, there's not that much work we could do to get into it. And I was like, Donna, yeah.
She did try to hire a private investigator, but it was to no avail. It wasn't until the episode aired that the two women made the gruesome discovery of the secret that Hank Queen, a.k.a. Dennis Depew, had been keeping this whole time. The women, of course, immediately notified the FBI. Yeah. They immediately did that.
Good.
The FBI alerted authorities that Depew was fleeing Grapevine. By dawn the next day, Mississippi authorities were notified that Louisiana police were in pursuit of a van with stolen Texas tags. The driver was refusing orders to stop, and a roadblock was set up on the Louisiana-Mississippi border. Police were able to shoot out 3 out of the 4 of Depew's tires.
Dang.
He did fire shots back at police through his windshield, and he was able to travel for about half a mile before he was forced to stop because he didn't have tires.
Yeah.
When the authorities approached the van, they discovered that Depew apparently had shot himself. What's interesting is, like, anytime you read about this final part, it says, like, authorities say or authorities claim.
Huh.
And I'm like, are we not supposed to trust them? Like, is something shady going on right here?
Like, why don't you just say, like, he did this or he did that?
And I'm like, he had a gun with him, so if he fired back and they did shoot him, that's a clean shoot.
Right.
Because he's firing at them.
Right.
I don't know. It was, like, weird. I'm like, I'm not sure if we're supposed to be skeptical of that, but he's dead.
Like, oh, he shot himself. Oh, no.
Yeah. I don't know. But he's dead, and he had $16,000 in his pocket.
Whoa.
Yeah. The dried blood that had been found on the passenger side of the van did not belong to Depew. They did send it off to be tested to see if it belonged to his ex-wife, Marilyn, which I believe that, yes.
That would make sense, yes.
Yeah. According to the Unsolved Mysteries fandom website, Depew was apparently the first fugitive featured on a broadcast television that had committed suicide.
Oh, interesting.
So Marilyn Depew's sister, Beverly Bank, who lives in Sarasota, Florida, was granted guardianship of all 3 children, and she told the press that the death saved the children from having to testify against their father. So even though there was no justice, so to speak, I almost kind of feel like there is, because I'm like, it's not like the authorities are saying
we don't know what happened, right?
He just was never technically convicted.
Yeah.
But I also am like, that's probably really good that his children didn't have to
testify against him.
Absolutely. Him. So while the creator, Jeepers Creepers, never confirms that he bases the opening scene off Thornton's story, it's hard not to see the parallels.
Yeah, that sounds pretty similar.
Right. Some people say that Dennis Depew is supposed to be the creeper, except in the movie, he's an ancient creature that awakes every 23rd spring for 23 days and feasts on human body parts. And he finds his victims by smelling their fear. So Depew may not be a flesh-eating monster, but he is definitely a creep.
Wow.
And that is the inspiration, at least the opening scene. I have no idea what the rest of Jeepers Creepers happens, but like...
So it's the creature. It comes back every 27 or 23 years for 23 days. And you just have to like make it through those 23 days. So he is essentially like falling apart. So whenever one of his body parts is kind of going, that's what he takes from someone else.
Oh.
So Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers?
I didn't listen to the song either.
Oh, so it talks about like, where'd you get those peepers? So like the eyes, because he takes them from someone else.
Yeah. Okay.
So he takes body parts when he needs them.
So on Wikipedia, whoever wrote that Wikipedia page, like that part of the sentence grammatically didn't make sense.
Oh.
And so I was like, are they saying that he eats the body parts because he needs them? Just the way it was written, I like wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I didn't put that part in there. But now that makes sense.
Yeah. So the first one is like those people. And it's kind of the whole story of them going into his house lair area. And then the second one, because there's a second one. So 23 years later, they're on a bus. So it's like kids on a bus coming home from like soccer or a basketball game or something. And the bus breaks down.
What did he need in the second one?
Same things.
Eyeballs?
Eyes, heads.
Oh, just like in general, he needs.
Yeah, like if a body part starts to fall on him, he gets it from someone else.
Okay.
So that's what he takes.
Because I know he took the eyeballs of the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's Jeepers Creepers. I thought it was going to be really scary, and it actually wasn't that scary, but you would not like it.
Yeah, I saw pictures of the creeper.
Yeah, he's kind of creepy.
He's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
So, and
he flies. So he can like attack you from the air.
Ugh.
He has big old wings.
There's nothing worse than figuring out a bug can fly. Yeah, I realized when I was doing this that I was like, oh, so it's really just that first part with like, and then obviously as I went more into it, but then I was like, well, I don't really know what the rest of the movie's about.
Yeah, no, the rest of the movie doesn't seem to fit in much with anything else.
No. But I'm like, he definitely took that.
Oh, absolutely.
And then just tried to say like, oh yeah, I came up with this artistically all by myself.
No.
And it's like, bitch, you literally could probably watch the Unsolved Mysteries episode. Because when it starts off the case, that's what it starts with. It starts with them driving.
Press play at the same time.
And every article I read was like, that's the opening scene of the movie. And I'm like, so yeah, you did base it off that.
Yeah. How many years difference? When did the movie come out? When did this case happen?
10 years.
Oh.
He was killed or committed suicide, whatever you want to, whatever happened in 1991, and it came out in 2001.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Well, that was interesting. I had no idea.
Me neither.
Whenever we watch Jeepers Creepers, I'll have a really fun story and people will be like, oh, okay. And I'll be like, no, but listen, it's really cool.
Right. Okay. So this relates in my own mind, and you'll see in a second.
Okay.
So I was driving my little and her husband and her friend to the airport, and we were passing the Air Force Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about like how long it took us to figure out that that's what it was. Because you didn't know. The Pentagon's pretty easy. It's shaped like a pentagon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, even though I figured out like what it is, like I don't get why it's shaped like that. And then it was explained to me that like, I guess when the fighter jets take off, they go straight up and then they go out. Right.
Oh.
So when I was driving back and I saw it, I'm like, now it all makes sense. And it's not like a stupid statue.
I never knew that.
Neither did I. And so when I passed it, I texted her and I was like, every time I pass that now, I'll be like, hey, did you know that it's shaped like that? As if I always had this fun fact.
Right. Like, listen to how smart I am.
Right. Like, oh, did you know this movie was actually based off of a real event? Like, you didn't know that?
Wow.
I knew that.
Uncultured.
Right. Like, come on, man. Are you really a fan?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Isn't that cool?
But nice case. Very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very interesting.
There was a lot more to it. Because when I first read it, it was just about that one part with like the van. And
yeah.
I thought there was going to be more to that part, but then there wasn't. And then as I kept going, I'm like, letters? What letters? Like, what are these letters he sent? So, yeah.
Well, nice. I liked it.
Thank you. What's the scoop? Chicken soup? Yeah, no, not one of my best ones. But the one I was going to do, I was like, I have to hold on to it for a certain type of story. And I don't think that this story is the type of story that this would work best for.
Ooh, actually, now that you say chicken, though, that kind of does fit into my story.
Perfect. I did that on purpose.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, so slight trigger warning for this case. Child death, abuse, and mentions of rape. So, let's just jump right on in. So.
It's okay. I had sewn bodies on a ceiling, so.
So what is a changeling?
I don't know.
So in folklore, a changeling is believed to be a fairy that is left in the place of a child that has been stolen by other fairies.
Oh.
Now, this fairy child looks almost exactly the same as the child that's being taken, but some things are off. In different cultures and different places, those things are different things.
Oh, interesting.
So I didn't list them, but
yeah. Okay.
In other beliefs, a changeling is the offspring of a fairy, troll, elf, or other legendary creature that has been secretly left in the place of a human child.
Okay.
Yeah.
So either way, replacing a human child.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep. That's,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So interesting note, this isn't about the case at all, but I just thought this was interesting.
Yeah.
So there was actually a murder that took place in 1985. A woman was killed by her husband after he believed she was a changeling. He stated his motive was that she had been abducted by fairies and had been replaced. He believed that he killed the changeling and that by doing so, this would force the fairies to return his real wife. Not surprisingly, that didn't happen. He killed the wife. It wasn't a changeling. Not good.
Was he mentally competent to stand trial?
I did not look any more into it because it wasn't my case.
Okay.
So I was like, interesting, let's keep going.
Right.
So in 2008, Clint Eastwood directed a film written by J. Michael Straczynski titled Changelings, based on another real event that occurred in 1928. The movie centered around a woman, Christine Collins, played by Angelina Jolie, and her struggles against the LAPD.
That's some name dropping in this one.
I know. So it's about her struggles against the LAPD as she searches for her missing son. Jolie was actually nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance in this role.
Wow. So this is like a
critically
acclaimed movie.
Critically acclaimed movie. So
I think mine got like a 5 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes or something.
Jason Butler Harner plays Jordan Northcott, who will be introduced in the story. Tagline for this movie, according to IMDb, is, quote, "To find her son, she did what no one else dared."
What did she do?
Well, I'll get to it.
Okay. Themes
of the movie are powerful, such as the disempowerment of women, corruption in political hierarchies, and children and violence.
Wow, look at you with this movie.
The movie has been nominated for 69 awards and has won 14 of them. Yeah. It actually didn't win one award, the Palme d'Or, because judges didn't believe the story was based on fact. So I guess the movie had to be based on fact.
Yeah.
One judge said that he did not believe that the police, the LAPD, would treat someone the way they had Collins. So he was like, this can't be real.
Of course, it was a man that was saying that.
Yep.
Interesting.
The writer, Straczynski, annotated where he got his information that proves the film was based on fact. And don't worry, I will get into all the facts.
And story done right here.
That's all you need to know.
It won a bunch of awards and it was actually real. And that's it.
Cut. So what the heck inspired this movie? In 1928, 9-year-old Walter Collins, born in September of 1918 to parents Christine Collins and Walter J. Collins, went missing. On March 10th, 1928, Walter's mother, Christine Collins, gave him a dime to go to the cinema near the Lincoln Heights neighborhood of LA. A dime. Yeah. Walter was dressed for the weather in lumberjacket brown corduroy trousers, black Oxfords, and a gray hat.
Spiffy little man.
I know. Some neighbors saw Walter walking around 5 p.m. that day, but that would be the last time he was ever seen. He never returned home that night. One source said 5 days later on March 15th. Other sources said immediately, but either way, his mother reported him missing. His disappearance became another one in the string of young boys who had been disappearing in the area since 1926, so 2 years prior. Just a month prior, in February, a headless child had been found in La Puente, a nearby area. And just a few months after that, on May 16th, Nelson and Lewis Winslow, 2 young brothers who were 10 and 12 respectively, went missing from the Pomona neighborhood of LA. What's weird about their case, though, is that after their disappearance, their parents started to receive strange letters from them.
Letters?
Oh, yeah. The first letter said that they were heading to Mexico. So a 10 and 12-year-old were going to head to Mexico. Then the second one said that they planned to stay missing as long as they could in order to become famous. Yeah. And that wasn't all, though. 3 months earlier, the city suffered the kidnapping and gruesome murder of Marion Parker, a 12-year-old girl. So things weren't good in the area, so Walter's disappearance was immediately looked into.
What were the other kids' names? Or have you not said yet?
There was Nelson and Lewis Winslow. And then there was Marion Parker. And then the headless child.
Okay. There's something I've heard of that's similar. And I don't know if it's the same.
Okay.
Or if it's just similar.
Okay.
Because then the name Walter for some reason is like, but when I think about, well, I'll just let you finish and I'll let you know.
That works. Okay. So obviously the disappearance of a 9-year-old garnered nationwide media attention.
I would hope so.
And the LAPD was working hard to try to solve the case and to find Walter.
Were they?
But as we know, the LAPD sucks. So at this time, they were already under investigation for several corruption scandals.
Oh, good.
And their inability to locate Walter was embarrassing and kept putting them in a really bad light.
The amount of times that I feel like we have read something where there was this pressure to have something solved. And so they're like, well, this is just it. And it's like the families, the friends or whatever be like, no, you need to keep looking.
Oh, yes. So their inability to locate Walter forced a lot of pressure onto Police Chief James Davis. So they're really trying to push to get something done. And of course, with the news of Walter being missing, sightings started to pop up. They started first in San Francisco and Oakland. His father, Walter J. Collins, was serving time at the Folsom State Prison for 8 armed robbery convictions. Yeah, so he's not a great guy. His job in the jail was to report—
No wonder they came up with the 3-strike rule. 8?
Oh, yeah. 8 convictions.
Hold on. Was that simultaneously?
I'm not sure. It didn't really go much into the dad or his crimes, just that he was in jail for 8 armed robbery convictions.
Because I forgot that you can get charged for more than one thing.
Oh, sweet child.
Okay, remember, think if it should be an outside thought before you actually say it out loud.
So his job in the jail was to report infractions that occurred in the prison cafeteria. So he would be in the cafeteria. If anyone did something wrong, he would be the one to write them up. So obviously this brought a lot of enemies. He immediately started—
Snitch.
Yeah, pretty much. So his first thought was that a former inmate, one that maybe he wrote up at some point, had kidnapped his son as a form of revenge.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. So that's one theory.
Yeah.
Then a gas station attendant in Glendale, Richard Struthers, claimed that he had seen a, quote, foreign couple with a dead boy in the backseat of their car. The boy had been wrapped in newspaper with only his head showing. Apparently, a man named C.V. Staley had also seen this boy and had actually followed the couple after they left the gas station. He followed them all the way to the police station where the couple just parked for a few minutes, kind of waited until they sped out of town, losing Staley in the process. So Struthers and Staley were shown a photo of Walter, and both confirmed that he was the boy they had seen in the back of the couple's car. Other tips also came in of others seeing a couple traveling across the state with a boy in their back seat who was begging them to let him go.
Okay.
The LAPD followed up on all of these leads, as well as hundreds of others that came through, but all of it led nowhere. For 5 months, the police received increased pressure for them to find Walter and to continue their search. But as the months passed, criticism kept coming to the LAPD that they weren't able to find him. And every time I say that, there was an SNL sketch of this one guy going, LAPD. And now every time, all I can think of, and I just want to say it like, the LAPD. All right, so after 5 months of searching, the case began to grow cold. Then in August of 2019, Then in August of 1928, Walter was found in DeKalb, Illinois, almost 2,000 miles or 3,218 kilometers away. A boy claiming that he was Walter had been found at a diner in DeKalb. The LAPD was immediately contacted, as was Walter's mother. Christine, the mother, started exchanging countless letters and photographs with Walter, and soon enough, she was finally able to pay to bring him back to LA. A huge public reunion was scheduled for Christine to be reunited with her little boy. The LAPD was like, we're under a lot of slack. Look at this amazing thing we did. We found this boy. Their reunion will be amazing. It'll make us look incredible.
Except if it's not the right kid.
But when she saw Walter, she knew that this boy was not her son. But Captain J.J. Jones, the officer in charge of this case, wanted it to be nice and neatly closed, so he had the audacity to tell Christine to try the boy out for a little bit and take him home. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God.
When Christine said that this boy even looked different from her son Walter, Jones said that Walter had matured in the last 5 months and had clearly experienced stress, so because of this, he would obviously look different. 3 weeks passed with Christine and Walter, so she tried it out for 3 weeks.
But that's a long-ass time.
I know, of having someone who you don't think is your child in your home. But after those 3 weeks, she just couldn't take it anymore. She returned to the police station telling him that this boy was not her son.
Can I go back for that boy?
Oh, put a pin in it. Okay. So she had gotten Walter's dental records and brought them with her as proof, as well as statements from friends, family, even Walter's teachers, who were all saying the same thing, that this wasn't him. She claimed the boy was an imposter and she wanted nothing to do with him. She said, quote, yes, he looks like Walter and in some ways he acts like my son, but still I'm not certain about it. You see, Walter was quiet and well-behaved. He always called me mother. This child calls me Ma, and at times he is hard to handle. I certainly hope he is my son, but somehow I can't bring myself to believe it.
Your mother's going to know if it's her son or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. But instead of doing anything with this evidence and maybe, I don't know, checking the dental records, Captain Jones accused Christine of being a bad mother, accused her of wanting the easy way out and having the state take care of her son, and accused her of bringing ridicule to the police. He claimed she was a, quote, lunatic, and accused her of trying to embarrass them. He even tried to prove the boy was Walter by dropping the boy off in a random location and having him find his way home from memory. To be like, look, he knows the area. Or they also brought in the family's dog, who allegedly recognized the boy as his owner. So these 2 tests, don't worry about the dental records, nothing. These 2 tests prove this is your son. And that was all the police needed. This is her son. But Christine was not convinced and was vocal about not being convinced. Then Captain Jones was an absolute dick, I don't like him, and said, quote, what are you trying to do, make fools out of us all? Are you trying to shirk your duties as a mother and have the state provide for your son? You are the most cruel-hearted woman I've ever known. You are a fool. On September 8th, Jones then went so far as to have Christine committed to the psychiatric ward at Los Angeles County Hospital under a Code 12 internment. So this term is used to jail or commit someone who is deemed difficult or an inconvenience, mainly a way to get rid of difficult citizens. Read that as difficult women. So she's committed.
AKA just a woman speaking her mind.
Yeah, knowing that this random child is not her son.
Right.
After Christine was committed, I guess Captain Jones finally started to do his job because he brought Walter in and started questioning him.
Mm-hmm.
This was done after a handwriting expert analyzed the boy's writing with Walter's writing and realized that they didn't match.
Okay.
But what was interesting was it was specifically the R's that were used. So the form of R that was found in this Walter's handwriting was a common way to write R's in like Illinois, Iowa, kind of in that area.
Sure, where he was.
Right. Not so much the way that they were taught in California.
Okay.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah.
This led the boy to admit that his actual name was Arthur Hutchins Jr., and he was a 12-year-old runaway from Iowa. His mother had died, and Arthur had been living with his father and stepmother, evil stepmother. He ran away from them and hitchhiked his way to DeKalb, Illinois. While at a cafe there, someone told him that he resembled the missing boy from LA, as Walter's picture had been all over the news. So he kind of was like, okay. When authorities were called, they came to pick him up. They had asked him if he was Walter Collins, as he fit the description. Hutchins first said no, but then changed his answer to yes. Mm-hmm. But the authorities were a bit skeptical of his story the whole time, but they were so desperate to close the case that they just believed he was Walter Collins.
Oh, of course.
And as to why, he said yes. Arthur said he wanted to get to Hollywood so that he could meet his favorite cowboy actor, Tom Mix. And what better luck than there being a missing boy who he resembled who was from California.
Seems like a very 12-year-old reason to do this.
So he's like, I look like this kid. I'm going to go to California and I'm going to be close to Hollywood and I'm going to meet my favorite actor.
I think that's what's probably the most infuriating thing is when you ask a kid why they did something and the answer they gave you, you're like, it's stupider than what you did.
Yeah. But like in a little kid mind, it's like California, that's where Hollywood is.
Right.
I'm good. So he went along with this made up story for as long as possible. Christine was finally released from the psychiatric ward 10 days after Hutchins confessed who he actually was. She rightfully so filed a lawsuit against the LAPD, Captain Jones in particular.
Good.
She won the lawsuit and was awarded $10,800, which in today's money would be $193,911.
Nice.
But Jones never paid it.
Of course not.
The most that happened to him was that he was suspended from duty, but reinstated not long after. So this is where things take a turn. So, obviously, the real Walter has still yet to be found.
Okay.
And while all of this, the disappearances, the finding of the other boy, Christine's essential imprisonment, while all of that was happening, 50 miles outside of LA at a ranch in Wineville, something else was going on. Authorities had been alerted to a barn in the Wineville area that belonged to 19-year-old Gordon Stewart Northcott. Northcott came from not a great home. His father ended up in a mental asylum later in life, and one of his uncles landed in San Quentin, a prison, serving a life term for murder. He also claimed to have been sodomized by his father when he was only 10, and his mother apparently dressed him in women's clothes until he was 16.
Oof.
So not a great life.
Not good.
Northcott had been housing Canadian citizen, 15-year-old Sanford Clark, who did not have the permits to be working in the U.S. Typically, this could have easily flown under the radar had it not been for Sanford's sister. 19-year-old Jessie Clark was living in Canada at the time, while her 15-year-old brother, Sanford Clark, was working with his uncle or his cousin, not really sure what the relationship is here, Gordon Northcott's ranch in California. So there are some conflicting sources. So I will talk about someone named Winifred very soon.
Okay.
It's unsure if that's his sister or his mom.
Okay.
So we're unsure if Jessie and Sanford are his siblings or his niece and nephew. Like some weird kind of siblings
the
or niece
ones
and
from
nephew.
Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she's 19, Jessie Clark, and at the time Northcott is also 19.
Okay.
Which makes it seem like they would be more cousins than they would be aunt and uncle.
Right.
Or uncle and like niece and nephew.
Yeah.
But for the sake of the case, we're just going to say he was their cousin.
Okay.
Because that's what I read more of.
Sure.
So Northcott had moved from Canada to California in 1924. In 1926, he had asked his father to buy him a plot of land in Winefield where he ended up building a chicken ranch and a house. After Northcott had the house, he had driven back up to Saskatoon, Canada to talk to Winifred, who was the mother of Sanford and Jessie. Either his sister, someone.
Whatever she is.
His family member.
Yes.
Which I put again in here. I couldn't figure out. So anywho, Northcott told Winifred that he needed help running the farm that his father had left him in 1926. So he was wondering if Sanford, this 15-year-old dude, would like to take a trip, would like to take this amazing opportunity. He could come to the U.S. with Northcott, work on the farm, kind of do this fun thing. So Winifred obviously agreed. But her husband was like a little suspicious, not really loving the idea, but they let him go. Sanford packed up his stuff and traveled down to Winefield with his cousin Gordon Northcott to help him and work on the farm. Jessie and Sanford had been writing letters back and forth, but eventually Jessie started to get concerned when the letters from her brother started to seem strange. So strange, in fact, that she booked a trip down to California to check on her brother in August of 1928. When she got there, Northcott immediately started acting weird, rarely letting the siblings ever be alone together. But eventually one night, Jessie was able to get Sanford alone. This is when he revealed to her that not only had their cousin Northcott been sexually abusing him, he was also a murderer. Sanford asked his sister if she remembered, quote, reading in the papers about a little boy that was kidnapped named Walter Collins.
Oh, no.
He then went on to say that Northcott, quote, had kept Walter at the ranch for a little over a week and had killed the boy when people started searching for him. He then said that Northcott had also killed Walters after Walters had seen him helping another man kill someone else. So he had witnessed a murder. He then told his sister of two other boys who were murdered and a Mexican ranch hand who had been shot and decapitated.
Oh my God.
So young, headless child. Terrified, Jessie went back to Canada and immediately told the American consul everything that her brother had told her. The consul then alerted the LAPD.
Oh no.
After receiving this tip in September of 1928, that sounded weird, in 1928, the LAPD went right to the farm, and there they made a grisly discovery. All over the ground, on the blood-soaked soil, they found scattered bone fragments, to include ankles and fingers. The bones were later tested and determined to belong to young males. They also found axes with blood and human hair encrusted on the blades. But the owner of the ranch was not there. Northcott had seen the officers arriving, so he told Sanford, who was still at the ranch, to stall the police so he could get away. And that if Sanford said anything to the police or didn't stall them long enough, he would be hiding in the tree line and he would shoot him. Northcott ran off towards the woods and hid within the tree line right on the edge of his property to kind of see what was going on. The police did find Sanford Clark, though. Sanford talked to and stalled the police for over 2 hours, and it was at this point when he felt safe enough to tell the police what had actually happened. He was taken into protective custody and taken away from the ranch.
Oh, so they believed him right away.
Yeah. So with him out of the way and safe, the police continued to search the farm. They found a lot. Boy Scout badges, library books, letters written to parents, a child's whistle, all items that belonged to the boys who had gone missing, the Winslow brothers and the unidentified victim, but nothing could be directly related to Walter Collins. While in custody, Sanford had told the police all that had happened and retold them what he had told his sister. On September 15th, while still in custody, he was shown 30 photos of boys who were missing, hoping that he would be able to identify some of the victims who he had seen on the farm. Out of all of the photos, he positively identified Walter Collins. A search was issued for Gordon Northcott, obviously, as he had fled from his farm when police had shown up. On September 20th, he was picked up in Canada with his mother, Sarah Louise Northcott, and the two were apprehended in Calgary, Canada. They were held in Canada for a bit as their extradition paperwork was being processed, and while waiting there in British Columbia, Sarah confessed to the murders, to include Walter Collins. Northcott also confessed to killing more than 5 boys. But before they were extradited, both retracted their confessions. Northcott actually gave an interview to the Vancouver Daily Sun where he said that he was innocent, but he only fled to protect his mother from the shock of the accusations against him. Yes. So, 2 were finally extradited back to the U.S. on November 30th, 1928, due to the errors in their extradition paperwork. Obviously, the whole case became an absolute media circus, with newspapers, news stations, everyone all over the entire country talking about this case. This is how Northcott received the nickname of Ape Man, due to his extremely hairy arms and back. Yuck! Like, disgusting. So Sarah took the stand first. She had the first trial. Though she had retracted her confession in Canada, she once again confessed that she had been the one to kill Walter Collins. She said that he had been killed with a fatal blow with an axe, and then that they had buried him near the chicken coop. So that's why you said chicken soup. She claimed that her son Northcott was innocent, but then she went on to explain his concerning behavior. She claimed, though it was never proven, that her son Gordon was a product of incest between her husband and their daughter Winifred. Which is why we don't know if Winifred's children are his siblings, his cousins,
or both.
Gordon's mother, so Sarah would be Gordon's grandmother, not his mother.
Right.
Making his sister, his half-sister, and his mother. I went way too deep into trying to figure out the family tree.
That's so gross.
Yes. So she also went on to say,
That's an episode of CSI that I do know.
What, the whole incest thing?
Yeah, it's so they go to the house. The parents are dead. And there's a little girl. And through the investigation, they find that the sister is actually the little girl's mother because dad had her boyfriend kill the parents was because he started going into the other room. Like
Justified.
The
girl's room.
Yeah, the little girl's room. And she was like, I'm not going to let him do that to my kid.
I would justify that.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
So. Sarah continued on saying that as a child, Gordon had been sexually abused by the entire family. So he just had a really shitty upbringing. No excuses, though.
I was going to say, I know a lot of people who've had not so great upbringings and they come out okay.
Yeah. So Sanford Clark then took the stand to testify against Sarah. He told the court how Northcott had kidnapped, molested, beaten, then killed 3 young boys, all with the help of his mother, Sarah. Sanford then confessed that he had been forced to help as well. He spoke about the headless boy that had been found, saying that boy was Alvin Gothia. He said Northcott had decapitated him, then forced Sanford to dispose of the body by burning it in a fire pit and then crushing the skull. Or burn the head, because the body was found.
Yes.
So side note about Sanford, after he confessed he had been involved, he was never charged for his participation in the crimes because Assistant District Attorney Loyal C. Kelly believed that he was innocent and that he had been a victim of Northcott's as well and never a willing participant.
It seems...
He had participated out of fear and death threats.
That seems...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was technically sentenced somewhere. He was sentenced to 5 years at the nearby Whittier State School, now known as the Fred C. Nels Youth Correctional Facility. The school offered an experimental program for delinquent youths and had a very compassionate mission for genuine rehabilitation. So it was like...
the few and far between at this time.
Right. So it was actually like a good place
to go.
So later, his sentence was commuted to 23 months as he, quote, had impressed the trustees with his temperament, job skills, and his personal desire to live a productive life during his nearly 2 years there.
See? He went through fucking hell.
Yeah. Yes. So after this confession on December 31st, 1928, Sarah Northcott was sentenced to life imprisonment at Tehachapi State Prison for her role in Walter's death. Due to her plea of guilty and with being a woman, Superior Court Judge Morton gave her a life sentence rather than the death penalty.
Okay.
Because she was a woman.
Yeah.
She was actually paroled in 1940 and later died in 1944. So she only served 12 years of her sentence. Her life sentence. For her participation in murder. So back to the farm real quick. While on trial, Sanford Clark had stated that the bodies of the boys were buried under the chicken coop, and any additional remains had been disposed of using quicklime.
Wow, my little phrase intro really was.
I know. When you said it, I was like, ooh. So with this, authorities immediately went to the property to check to see if Stanford's claims were true.
Sure.
And they did find 3 shallow graves exactly where he said they would be. But the graves only contained parts of the bodies, not complete ones. Sanford and his sister had testified at court that Northcott and his mother had actually exhumed all of the bodies on August 4th, 1928, just a few weeks before police came to the farm. They said that Northcott and his mom had taken the bodies to a deserted area where they most likely burned them.
Mm.
So the complete bodies had never been found, but the evidence found in the graves consisted of, quote, 51 parts of human anatomy. Those silent bits of evidence of human bones and blood have spoken and corroborated the testimony of living witnesses.
Wow, you said that just so...
Because I don't add W's to it.
Every time I'm watching something and they say it, I try to say it.
Well, I was talking to Mom about this the other day. I was like, you and languages. Like, when we were talking about the Dyatlov Pass, I was like, oh yeah, the Mansi people. And she was like, the Yancey? No, the Mansi. Oh, the Bansi? No, the Yance, or the Mansi. I was like, Donna.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it really beautifully.
Thank you so much.
Like, really good job. That was kind of impressive.
Thanks. So his trial began shortly after in January of 1929 and was presided over by Judge George R. Freeman. Oh, that's an interesting name for a judge. Freeman.
I was thinking Foreman, like the grill.
Do you know that all of George Foreman's sons are named George?
I think, yeah.
I think we talked about this because it's such a weird fact. So Northcott ended up firing several of his defense attorneys and proceeded to defend himself, which is always a very strong, good strategy.
Sure.
While on the stand, he grilled himself. He would ask himself a question, and then he would go ahead and answer that question, and then go back and forth between asking himself questions and answering these questions, all while on the stand. And I was reading, too, that people who, like, saw the trial or who had been in the courtroom said that he just had this air of being as comfortable in a courtroom as he would be at a bar with friends. Like, he just, when they were on breaks, he would be joking around with the prosecutors.
Like charisma?
Yes.
Yeah.
He had the charisma. So.
He's got charisma.
So he's like, So he admitted that the kidnappings began back in 1926 when he would abduct young boys and bring them back to his ranch. He would rape them, then kill them by bludgeoning them with an axe when he was bored of them. He would walk into the incubator room under the guise of seeing hatching chicks, and this is where he would kill them. He would then dispose of the remains using quicklime.
Guys, who the fuck else is there?
What?
You said under the guise.
Other the guys, like Guise.
No, I know. But when you think, like, you're doing something so it looks like you're doing something else, but no one else was there, why would he have to hide what he's doing?
No, he wanted to get them into this room to kill them.
Yeah.
No. So he would be like, oh, let's go look at these chickens.
I thought they were already in there, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go check out the incubator. And I'm like, who are you fooling?
No,
Nobody else is there.
He would walk them into the incubator room.
Okay. Makes so much more sense.
He already has you. Why does he need to tell you anything? So he verbally admitted that he had killed 5 to 9 boys, to include Walter Collins and the Winslow brothers. But he said that he didn't work alone. He confirmed that he had the help of his mother, Sarah Northcott, who he claimed he was having an incestuous relationship with. Yep. But he quickly changed that story again and said that he didn't kill 5 boys. He had only killed 1. Back in February of 1928, he had killed the Mexican boy named Alvin Gothea. The boy was found decapitated. This is when Northcott stated that he, quote, left the headless boy by the side of the road near La Puente because he had no other place to put it. When asked what his motives were for the murders, he said that he abused the young boys because he loved them. Yeah. On February 8th, 1929, after 27 days, the trial for Gordon Northcott ended. While he was being held temporarily before his sentencing, he was held at the Northside County Jail. Mr. Winslow, the father of the Winslow brothers, actually formed a lynch mob who planned to hang him on their own. So they were going to go kill him. But police showed up when the mob did and were able to convince them to disband and kind of not do it. So one of the places that I read was, I didn't know where to put this in.
Mm-hmm.
So how his mother got involved was he had gotten Walter.
Mm-hmm.
He was holding him he would hold them hostage in the chicken coops. And so he had him hostage in there and he was with Sanford and neither of them knew what to do. So he called his mom and his mom was like, well, we need to kill him because now he's seen you guys. So that's why he was killed, supposedly.
I mean, you call your mom when you don't know what to do. I get it.
Mom. But yeah, so that's apparently how Sarah kind of started to get involved in all of this and why she was like kind of helping with everything.
Yeah.
But
we always talk about like, yeah, I would definitely help you bury a dead body. I'm going to ask my mom if she would do that.
I think my mom would be like, well, it depends why. Like if it's a child, no. If it was like a spouse who was abusing me, you're gone.
Right.
I'm not saying that because I have a spouse who abused me. I'm just saying like a good example.
Yeah.
So he knows if he'd die.
I was going to say, I was like, I don't even think you would have to kill him. I think somebody else would do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It'd be like, in those like cop shows when they obviously hit like the person and you know that they're not allowed to do that. And they're like, did you see that? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
100%.
I'd be like, I didn't see anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep. So on February 13th, which happens to be Joe's birthday, 1929, so a little different, Gordon Stewart Northcott was found guilty of abducting, molesting, and murdering 3 young boys, so the Winslow brothers and the one unnamed victim who is believed to be Alvin Gothea. There had never been any evidence to link him to the murder of Walter Collins, though, and he continued to deny that he ever killed Walter. After his sentencing, Sarah actually tried to rescind her confessions, but continued to give scattered and inconsistent statements, so her ruling remained. They were like, you're just all over the place. And because she already confessed to Walter's murder, that's why Gordon was never able to be tried for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was officially sentenced to death by hanging. Even with Sarah's confession, Christine Collins, Walter's mother, was not convinced that Walter had been killed and rather continued to believe that her son was still alive somewhere.
Oh, no.
Shortly before his execution, Gordon Northcott reached out to Christine via telegram, telling her that he had lied when he denied that Walter had been one of the victims. He said that if she came to visit him in prison, he promised he would tell the truth.
Asshole.
Yes. So she eventually received permission to meet with and interview him at San Quentin just hours before his execution. But right when they sat down to talk, he backpedaled and said, quote, I don't want to see you. I don't know anything about it. I'm innocent. He had even left notes in his cell, some saying that he had never met Walter, some accusing Gordon's father of everything, like the kidnapping, the murders, but he was known as a pathological liar.
No shit.
Yeah. While in jail, there were many times when he offered to point out the remains of his victims. Like he told the cops, like, okay, I'll show you where everything is, only to take it back at the last minute. Sometimes he would claim he killed over 20 boys. Other times it was only 1 boy. He also said that a lot of the boys he abducted would be sold to, quote, wealthy Southern California pedophiles.
Ew.
He apparently even listed those clients while he was in jail, and either it wasn't believed or the names were just never published. The jail warden, Warden Duffy, had the displeasure of having to talk to Northcott at times. He defined his conversations with Northcott as, quote, a lurid account of mass murder, sodomy, oral copulation, and torture so vivid it made my flesh creep. So side note, Dr. S.M. Marcus, an LA psychiatrist and somnotherapist. I didn't know what that was.
What is that?
Let's look it up because I had no idea what that was. Oh, like sleep therapy, deep relaxation therapy, and therapeutical hypnotism.
Oh, okay.
So that's what she did. Mm-hmm. So she was the one, I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. They examined Northcott. Marcus said that Northcott possesses 3 of the 9 classifications of the constitutional psychopathic inferior.
There are 9 of those?
Apparently.
We are looking them up.
We will have to.
Yes.
So the ones he had were he was a pathological liar, a criminalist individual, and a sex deviant. So it's just pretty much a lot of like psychopathy and what determines that.
How many do you have to have in order to be considered a psychopath?
I don't know. This article didn't really say anything about it, but there's 3 types of psychopaths. I don't know. But anywho, he had 3 of these 9 classifications. Didn't have time to look into it. I apologize.
He's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs is basically what it is.
Yes. A news account said that, quote, the distraught woman was outraged by Northcott's conduct, but was also comforted by it. Northcott's ambitious replies and his seeming refusal to remember such details as Walter's clothes and the color of his eyes gave her continued hope that her son still lived. Then on October 2nd, 1930, 23-year-old Gordon Northcott was hanged. An article I read talked about out of everyone hung at San Quentin, Northcott's was the most difficult. It said that on his last day, he began screaming and trembling. His hands shook as they were being tied together, and in a soft voice, he asked, will it hurt? And, like, I read this, and then I was like, oh my God, that's so sad. And then I was like, no, you did this to the boys.
Right.
And then one person commented and was like, do you think that's what they said to him? Oh, I know. I'm so sorry. So then he asked for a blindfold so that he wouldn't have to see the gallows as he was led to them. Then as he was being walked to the gallows room, he kept saying to the guards, please, don't make me walk so fast. He had to practically be dragged up the 13 stairs that led to the rope, the whole time moaning with dread as each step brought him closer. His last words,
consequences of your actions.
Right. Like, I had sympathy when I was like, oh, you're so, like, that's so sad. And then I thought about what he did, and I said, actually, I don't have any sympathy for you. So his last words he screamed before the trapdoor was open were, a prayer. Please say a prayer for me. But apparently his knees kind of gave out as everything was happening, so the rope didn't do what it was supposed to do, so it took him 11 minutes to die. Oof, I know. After this whole thing finally ended, Winefield, the town that it all happened, decided that they didn't want to be associated with the Winefield chicken coop murders. So that year on November 1st, they were renamed to Miraluma. But they still have a lot of the roads in the town are called like Winefield Road, Winefield this. So it's like you still have all of the reminders there. Right. So 5 years after Northcott's death, something wild happened. A missing boy was found.
Shut up.
He was believed to have been yet another young boy who had been a victim of Northcott's abduction and probable molestation. The boy had been presumed to have been another murder victim of Northcott's, and with his reappearance, Christine gained hope again that her son was still alive somewhere out there and would soon come home one day. So for the rest of her life, she looked for her missing son. She also tried multiple times to get the money from Jones that he owed her. The last recorded time was in 1941 when she tried to collect $15,562 from him in the Supreme Court. I don't think it went anywhere. And ultimately, she died in 1964 at the age of 75. So there are other shows and movies that have mentioned the events that happened here. A radio series, Dragnet, had an episode 104, titled The Big Imposter, which was based around these events, but mainly Arthur Hutchins impersonating Walter Collins. Okay. So it's from like his point of view. Okay. The radio episode aired on June 7th, 1951. It was then moved to TV and turned into a teleplay, which aired on December 4th, 1952. American Horror Story Hotel Season 5 has a plotline where the maid's son is abducted on Halloween. It's implied that her son was one of Northcott's unidentified victims. And then in 2009, Criminal Minds had an episode titled Haunted, where a character is based off of Northcott. He's the Hollow Creek Killer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's based off of Northcott. And so in the movie talks about, towards the end, how, I guess if you don't want to hear this, spoiler alert, one of the Winslow brothers and Walter are believed to have escaped the chicken coop together. Oh. And so I guess like one of them, like the twin went, or the son went back, so he was found. But that's why in the movie you have like the hope to believe that he escaped. And he is somewhere out there.
Interesting.
So the movie gives it a much nicer spin. But yeah, so that is the movie Changeling. Yeah. Because I had heard of the chicken coop murders, but I had never like covered them.
I think like on that serial killer, I think they talked about him.
Probably.
Yeah.
But they're like, what was weird was I had heard of it before, but there wasn't a ton of information on him.
Really?
Yeah. He had a Murderpedia page, which I read, and it was like 3 articles.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Something that big, you would think.
Yes. And I tried to find his court case, and I tried to find all of that. Nothing really there.
Huh.
I mean, it could be because it was in the 20s, so like 100 years ago.
Yeah, that might be difficult to find information.
A little bit.
A little bit.
But yeah.
Wow.
So I want to watch the movie. Like I said, I really wanted to watch it. I tried to watch it on the plane. It was nowhere to be downloaded.
It does sound like more like a psychological thriller kind of thing.
It is classified, like its genre is thriller.
Yeah.
So I'll watch it. I'll give it a little watch.
Yeah.
And then we can maybe watch
a little looky-loo
and see if there's any jump scares. But I don't see, like, it doesn't sound like there would be any jump scares.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing with the jump scares is like, obviously that's a huge part of it, but there are funny movies who have those.
Yeah.
It's more so like when it's something like this where I know it's like a case and it's solved and it's like almost like because I know it's more based on real life.
Yeah.
That it seems a little less freaky.
Okay.
It's the ones that have like the monsters that are chasing them.
Right.
And like that anxiety of like, are they going to get out? Are they going to get out?
Yeah.
And so it's like then all of a sudden I'm feeling as anxious as probably that character. And then I'm uncomfy.
I got this medicine recently. I haven't used it yet, but it's to help get your heart rate down. So you could always use that. Because no one probably wants to hear about my health, but I'll tell you in case it's happening to you too. So I would get like the pounding of my heart and like the rapid heartbeat and all that stuff. And so I've gone to like a few cardiologists for it. And one of them who I met with the other day was like, oh, you have PAC or PVC. And she drew me pictures of it. So it's like the electrical response that your heart gives to beat, like to expand and contract.
Yeah.
This little thingy that I have kind of poops it a little bit early.
Okay.
So it makes it beat early. And then the heart's like, what the hell was that? And then like goes back to pumping. So that's where I feel that, where the heart's trying to catch up to those other beats.
Okay.
And so there's medicine that I could take where it will slow the heart rate down.
Oh, okay.
And like kind of get you back how it should be pumping.
Yeah.
I can't remember what PAC or PVC stands for. It's written
Pulmonary.
No.
Pre
something.
Oh.
Pre-atrial contusion? No, that's probably not it, but it sounds good. But so oh my God, she was talking about like heart stuff and how I don't have this, but there's like a very dangerous heart condition where you can get hit in the chest and it will do something to your heart where it kind of like stops it. Because there was an athlete who that happened to, like top shape athlete. He got hit in the chest at such a way that it hit the heart that he died. But then it made me think, oh my God, the Dyatlov Pass, where they had all of these things. Like, what if they had a big enough chest
like impact
that it hit in such a way that it stopped their heart? I didn't bring that up because I didn't know how she would feel about
that would have been
I
a little
looked at
weird.
Mom and I was like, please read my thoughts. And then I like back to what we were talking about. But yeah, so can't remember what the PAC or PVC stands for, but it's a thing. It's fine. It's just going to be something that is like bothersome for the rest of my life. So that's great.
Nice.
Yeah. It's like you can get on daily medicine to fix it. And I was like, no.
At least you know like what it is now.
Right. And she's like, it's not, she's like, you're not going to drop dead. And she's like, so you're fine.
Good.
Because there's one heart condition where if you work out, you can like just die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, so you don't have that. So you're not just going to die.
Like,
I was like,
thank
you.
You can't have your heart rate get up.
Right.
To that, yeah.
Yeah. There's SVT, which is also a really dangerous one. That's the one where your heart rate gets up high, you pass out. That's a really dangerous one. Apparently, I had 4 beats of that in a certain, like, I had a heart rate monitor that I had to wear for 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, I had 4 beats of SVT, and then it went away.
Ooh.
Yeah. But she's like, but you're fine. Like, you're not going to die. And I was like, thank you.
It's really all you need.
Right. That's all I need to know. Oh, my God. And then I was talking to Mom, and I told her, like, this new medicine, because she was there. It's propranolol.
Shut up.
Yeah. Why? Is that what you have?
Shut up.
Is that what you have?
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, my God.
Shut up. Oh my God. This is what he gave me to calm down.
So yeah, it helps drop your heart rate.
I know. He was like, you take it so that things feel more like a molehill.
That's what the molehill is. Oh my God.
That's crazy.
Aww.
2 vastly different reasons.
That is so funny.
I also couldn't say it when my mom asked me.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Some people say it so easily. Like this one podcast I listened to, the host is also on it. And they said it so easily. Like propranolol.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even.
It's got too many P's and a couple of R's.
And L's and N's. Yeah.
It's very confusing.
I was trying to say it to my coworker today. And he was like, what? I said, I don't know.
It's difficult.
But so she was telling me, she's like, okay, when you like take the pill, like just, keep an eye on everything, look it up because like, you want to make sure you don't have a bad reaction. And she said something and she was like, yeah, you could be allergic to it without knowing. And I was like, oh, great. A new fear I didn't know I had. Right. And then she burst out laughing. She was like, I shouldn't have said that to you.
No. That's so funny. Yeah. Mine is a take like as needed. So
yes.
Like if I'm a little bit more stressed out.
Yep, mine's a take as needed. Like when your heart's kind of really bothering you, take this to kind of slow it down, get it back to beating how it should be. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, look at
that. That's hilarious.
Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed. Yeah, so these are all just like cases that have inspired scary movies.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, I guess people it's kind of hard to come up with inspiration for movies.
There was 3 that were based on Ed Gein.
Oh, Well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yep, that was one of them. There was a couple other ones.
Yeah.
It was all, and I was like, how can they all be him?
American Horror Story did Ed Gein as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch that. Like that's like what I mean when I won't watch scary things. I will not watch that. That freaks me the fuck out.
What, American Horror Story?
Yeah.
Oh, like, so good. It's a season 2. I think it's Asylum is when.
Like the thing that I saw, the one thing I saw from American Horror Story freaks me the fuck out. And
which one was it? Was
even
it
a
the
jump scare.
latex suit?
No, it was, I don't know which one it was, but all I saw was one of the guys was like, I don't know if he was at a party or what it was, but someone was getting a tattoo of a like clover. And then like the next scene, he wakes up and he now has a foot that has a tattoo of a clover on it. And so whatever that friend was, it got sewn onto his body. And I said, nope. And I walked out.
Okay, valid. They don't get much better than, you know, they all kind of follow the same.
Freaked me the fuck out.
Horror thing, yeah.
I was like, I can't watch the show.
Oh, it's so good. It's gotten worse as the seasons have gone on. Like but the first 5, incredible.
Because, like, that's the thing. I get creeped out easily, too.
Yeah.
I get grossed out, creeped out, freaked out.
I like the creeped out. Because it's good. We're watching The Haunting of Bly Manor right now. We're talking about movies, so you guys get to hear us talk about TV shows and movies, too. So The Haunting of Bly Manor.
They can always stop it now if they want to.
Right. We've been watching every night before bed because Joe's uncle hasn't seen it yet. And so we're like watching it with him. And there was a scene last night that like the moment it happened, I got immediate full body goosebumps. And Joe's uncle, like a couple minutes later, was like, I have goosebumps from that scene. I was like, oh my God, I do too. Like it was a creepy scene.
I don't like that.
Oh, it's so good.
I don't like that. One more funny thing.
Yes.
When I was at my friend's house watching the dogs, they have a smart TV. And sometimes I would press the wrong button. So it would go back to like whatever TV show, but it was a movie channel. Oh. And I had like flipped it back to something and I'm looking like, I look at what the movie, not what it is, but just what's happening. And I'm like, this seems like a scary movie. And then I go to like click the remote to get back to whatever app I was on. And I think it was like The Conjuring or something. And I was like, I was right. It is.
But you know all about The Conjuring.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another movie.
Yes, that was on there. Yeah. The Conjuring, Annabelle, all that.
That's the whole like Conjuring universe.
You should go listen to that story too. On our Connecticut episode.
And then I did
in Amityville.
Amityville for New York. Yeah, there's a lot.
There is.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
The one website I went to, 45.
Wow.
Not all of them are accurate because when I Googled them, I was like, no, it's not.
Well, it's kind of like yours where it's just the beginning scene.
Yeah.
So if you were to read the description of like Jeepers Creepers, you'd be like, how does that relate at all?
Right.
Yeah.
But most of them said like it was based off of.
Oh.
And then some of them I would like Google
Inspired by.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would Google them and it would just tell you the plot, but it wouldn't say like inspired by whatever. So I figured, I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, any other movie, when you're creating anything, movies, songs, books, you base it off
something.
Yeah. You know, whether it's something you get your quote inspiration from or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But like at first, I feel like when I went into this, of it being like, that's crazy that it's based off of like true events. Like, oh my God, it seems like more frightening almost when you add that to a scary movie.
Yes.
When it's really no different than anything else that comes from creativity.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's not like, you know, the monster in your closet came out and that's what it's based off. Well, but then you have The Conjuring. It's not scary.
Or you don't watch scary movies and you live in this ignorant bliss of there's nothing scary.
But see, I know what could be scary, so I know how to expect things. You don't, so you could be blindsided by the unexpected.
Oh, no, that's where you're wrong. That's where anxiety comes in. I'm always expecting, like, the worst case scenario. I just keep pretending I'm like, if I don't see it, if I don't hear it, then I can pretend it's not there.
Oh my God, yesterday at the doctor, they were asking me like, do you have this, do you have anxiety? And I said, well, yeah, a little bit. And she goes, have you been diagnosed? I said, no. And she goes, okay, we're going to move on. I was like, well, that was embarrassing. Okay. Because I was thinking like, who doesn't? You know?
Honestly, you're not wrong though.
Right. And I was like,
and now technically you have anxiety medicines.
Right. Now I do.
Okay.
Well, all social media at
A Scary State Podcast.
Podcast.
Well, because I was thinking we were at a Scary State Pod on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, but I never remember to tweet, and I'll get into it for like a little bit and then I'll stop.
Yeah.
I'm big on we're big on, well, we're not big, but I'm big of posting on TikTok and Instagram. That's where most of our stuff goes.
Yes. And that's at a Scary State Podcast.
Yep.
You can email us at a scarystatepodcast@gmail.com.
And yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's all. So stay scary.
Stay safe.